Okay, we're good.
Okay, welcome everyone. And so let's start the meeting and let's look at the agenda. Any late items? Okay, so can we have a motion for approval of the agenda? Oh, there's DG2. Motion from Sue Ellen, yes. Seconder? And all in favor?
Adopting the agenda.
Okay. Let's move on to the minutes. Any corrections or changes to the minutes? We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I did want to make a comment, if I may.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't have them pulled up in front of me. One thing I noticed is that, they all look correct. However, the, information, in the summary of, our discussions regarding referrals.
Yeah.
Is, maybe could be fuller, with more details.
Yep.
If that is, what the council gets to see as a result, like when we don't make an actual recommendation, but what things we're considering,
Yep.
it shouldn't be too vague, which,
Okay.
I think like for the, do you have the minutes in front of you? No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, for the Adams Road properties,
Yeah.
like I think we did discuss a bunch more details, so I wonder if maybe we could be more detailed about, you know, what our thoughts are in the discussion in
Yeah.
the minutes.
Okay,
I can add a note about that.
any more discussion? Shall we have a motion?
So moved.
DG, seconder Claudia, all in favor? Lawrence is in favor too, all right. Thank you. So let's move on to the next item. Public comments, do we have public comments today?
Yes, we have Margaret Underhill here.
Okay, Margaret, welcome.
How many minutes do you want?
5.
Yeah, we can do 5. Okay. I'll set a timer for you, Margaret,
Okay,
for 5 minutes.
oh, I won't need that.
Done, thank you.
Okay.
So my public comments are about this application for 620 Laurel Road. Ever since the original TUP application for Riley Cidery in 2021, the justification for permission to establish a cidery has been to protect and maintain the orchard of heritage apple trees established by John and Josephine Riley. The preservation of the heritage orchard was again used in the application for the TUP renewal in late 2023. And yet again, the ongoing survival of the heritage apple trees is being tied to this rezoning application. However, there's a flaw in this argument. Just a few days after the TUP renewal was granted, the property at 620 Laura Road was listed for sale and has been on the market for approximately half the time since. Also since that time, the property owners have moved away. While we're sure that Robert Purdy and Christine Hardy are doing their best to maintain the heritage trees, it can't be easy doing this long distance. If the property had been sold while on the market, or is sold in the future without sufficient protection, such as a conservation covenant that provides for the preservation of the heritage orchard and for proper care of the trees, there will be no way to ensure the survival of this orchard in the future. In short, if they want permanent rezoning for the cidery, then they and future cidery owners must be required to properly maintain the heritage orchard. As outlined in Anne Frank de Ferrier's report to Mayor and Council, specialized pruning care is required to maintain these unique trees. Her report describes the work that Andre Charlotte performed with John Riley. If the municipality does not ensure that the heritage trees are protected by establishing a comprehensive conservation covenant as a condition of this rezoning, these trees could unfortunately be allowed to wither and die, rendering the supposed purpose of this rezoning application unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Any discussion on this?
I would think we'd normally move into the agenda
Okay,
item. wouldn't we?
okay. So next is council referrals, and it's Daniel.
Thank you. I have a presentation to go with this item, so just give me a sec. I will start it. Great. So I'm here for a rezoning application that was referred to you from council at 620 Laura Road. So by way of location, it's located at the intersection of Laura Road and excuse me, and West Side Road. It's a good start. And location of the Riley Cidery business that operates there and is sort of the focus of this application. The property is zoned rural residential 2, and this allows principal uses like dwelling, agriculture, stable, kennel. It allows accessory uses, including residential guest accommodation, home occupation, accessory residential use, so like secondary suites. And also by way of background on this property, it's subject to, as you've heard from the public comments, of a TUP that was issued by council in 2021. And then renewed in 2023, so expires December 2026, to permit cidery use on the property with some restrictions about the size of the operation and hours, and doesn't allow a lounge use. Yeah.
Just temporary use permit?
Yes,
right?
sorry,
Okay.
is a temporary use permit, yeah. So under Local Government Act, council can rezone properties, council can issue a temporary use permit for a permit of up to 3 years and can extend it one time for a use that's not otherwise permitted in the zoning. Yes.
The restrictions, I think you just
Mm.
briefly said, but could you
Yeah.
say it again, please?
Yeah. I just had it open. Or not. I'll go, but essentially there's restrictions on maximum retail area, maximum area for a picnic area. It's restricted in that it doesn't allow what's called a lounge endorsement. So under BC provincial rules, it's like to operate a cidery or a winery, something that creates alcohol. You can then get additional approvals. And so one of those is for a picnic area where you can come and you can purchase the alcohol and you can have a picnic, which is like you're not served food, but you can stay on site to consume the alcohol. Or you can have what's called a lounge endorsement, which is essentially like a restaurant. So the TUP specifically says you're not allowed a lounge endorsement. You can do the cidery piece. So a lounge endorsement would be like Bowen Cider House, I believe, that's in the ALR. Because it's in the ALR, is permitted a cidery and is permitted the lounge endorsement that they've received. So that's just the contrast. And the TUP restricts hours of operation, and it has parking provisions, I think.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And so I've noted here amended applications. You'll see in the referral there, the referral comes from a May council meeting, and there was an earlier April staff report as well. So this application originally came to council seeking a cidery use and a guest house use, but it was amended. So the application that was referred to you by council at their May 25th meeting sees the property owner as the applicant and is seeking the cidery use. And the proposal in the application is to seek the same definitions and the same restrictions as currently permitted under the temporary use permit. And then we'll note in here, then the direction from that council meeting was to be as exists on the site. So the TUP allowed a certain area for the picnic area and the retail area, and the actual construction on site is slightly smaller. And so the rezoning would be to seek that slightly smaller permission of what's there on site, as opposed to the TUP, which sort of was in place before anything was built. So it's no longer seeking that guest house use. Does that make sense? So this is from the April 13th council meeting where they originally referred the application. And as I say, before we were able to schedule and carry out that referral, we received an amended application from the applicant and we brought that to council. And so the May 25th council meeting Council again referred this revised application to you. And council simultaneously directed staff to prepare bylaws to amend the land use bylaw and then to provide notice of first reading when we come back. So that's a provision that says for applications that are consistent with the OCP, instead of having a public hearing, you can provide the notice at first reading. So I'll just show you where we are in this process. So the application was introduced to council. We're doing referrals for committees. We would come back to council for first reading before it's referred to Islands Trust and can be referred to committees again. And then we would come back for second and third reading and adoption. And I put here proposed bylaw, maybe it's like proposed draft bylaw, but essentially it would end up what we're thinking at this point of the first reading bylaw would rezone 620 Laura Road into a zone variation. And I actually didn't write, but RR2A, so it's RR2 currently, and would place it in as a variation that would permit the cidery use. Would again say the cidery can't have a lounge endorsement. It would set the maximum floor area of retail space and patio space based on the actual size there. And it would set the maximum hours that can be open based on what's in the TUP. And just here I have some proposed definitions. So the cidery is taken just directly from the TUP, that's the definition that's in the TUP. And so it would insert that into the land use bylaw. And then it would insert in a definition for the lounge endorsement. Essentially because if the zoning says you're not allowed a lounge endorsement, then we need to define what is a lounge endorsement, what is it that you're not allowed to have. And I'll say, yeah, in this way, the bylaw would include cidery definition. The cidery does say lounge endorsement, but then this would say, well, you can't have it here. And that's sort of leaving open the potential that some other zoning could have a cidery zoning that does include a lounge endorsement.
Somewhere else.
Somewhere else. It would have to be, it's not permitted anywhere else in our land use bylaw, but it sort of leaves open the option of somebody could have a cidery that has a lounge endorsement. Okay, and then the last piece I have here to talk about is conservation development policy. So you're all familiar with this policy. It has a goal that a minimum of 50% of the total land subject to the rezoning application is protected from further development. Priority is to be given to protection of any identified environmentally sensitive areas and green space. And I don't have it in here, but in the definition of conservation development, it talks about land that's used for recreation, that's for environmental protection, that's for agriculture. And so noting that we've said areas of the property suitable for protection include the riparian areas around Murray Creek that runs through the property. And the existing farmlands, so the existing orchards would again be appropriate protection. And that was the end of presentation. So just the recommendation to seek some recommendation from your committee to council. So I'll stop presenting there and open for any questions.
I'm wondering, Daniel, about the 50% protection there. Where is it on the map? So is it 50% and where is it?
Right, so I think I'm saying there's like, what we presented to council essentially like, these seem like appropriate things that could be in a covenant to be farmland, be Murray Creek. I'll say, you know, the applicant has been a little hesitant about the idea of a covenant and concerned about what it could be in. So we're looking for recommendation from PECAAC, I think, as to so if your recommendation is, you know, we think this falls under conservation development, it should be 50%. It should include Murray Creek. It should include the orchard. You know, then it sort of like would come to council and say, okay, here it is, would come back to you with the actual area.
Okay,
But that would be the stage that we're at.
okay.
Just to
Did you-
be clear.
Yeah.
The applicant has not, like a lot of times when we get something to us, it says, you know, they're proposing X percentage. The applicant hasn't gone to that step.
Correct, yeah.
So in reading some of the background material from the public, it does seem, if it's true, that there are a few things lacking that were reports normally needed, but because it was a temporary permit, they were not required at the time, but now if it's going to become no longer temporary, but a permanent change, like I'm in particular looking at the letter from Heather Miller and the question about the health guidelines for water quality and wastewater that from the cidery, and where is that? Is it going to the aquifer that a number of neighbors rely on? Do you know how much of that is correct?
Sure. I mean, I'll say in this rezoning application, we referred the application to Vancouver Coastal Health. So I'm just looking at that referral. So they say the existing water system is approved to serve the cidery, the house, and the barn, which is an accessory building on the property. And so they were recommending, based on the guest house use, BIM could ask the applicant to provide an assessment from a professional hydrogeologist. But that was in terms of the original referral that had the guest house use. And again, for the proposed guest house, Vancouver Coastal Health again recommended that BIM require they're called a ROPE, a registered on-site wastewater practitioner, provide a letter that the existing on-site septic field could handle the additional demand from a proposed guest house. So both of the concerns, like in terms of our referral to Coastal Health, who regulate the water and regulate the septic, they were both recommendations regarding the proposed increased use of the guest house.
DG, well, I was just gonna ask about the idea of having a picnic area where people are going to be drinking. They'll have to do other things after drinking. Is the septic system suitable for a large, well, whatever number of guests would be coming regularly to use the picnic area?
I don't know offhand. I'll say it already exists and so already is built.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
There
Did
is a
you-
porta potty
There's a
out by the
porta potty.
parking area. Are there indoor facilities, washroom facilities?
I don't believe that there are indoor facilities for guests. Yeah.
DG?
So my concern, well, one of my concerns is that hydrological assessment of the impact of the drawdown of water use for the cidery itself, not even talking about the guest house aspect. Looking at the cumulative impact on all the neighbors. And, you know, knowing that that is a very sensitive groundwater, what do they call it? A GARP, groundwater at risk of pathogens, right? So there's a lot of water that apparently that moves around. At a high level, it's been identified that happens in that groundwater area, and that there was no assessment done of that when the temporary use permit was granted and renewed. And it seems to me that to go to the next step of making it permanent without such an assessment is problematic. And so that needs to be something that needs definitely to be done in terms of looking at the drawdown of that water, because as climate change increases or, you know, continues, those sorts of impacts on the overall sort of groundwater shed are significant. And And I see too that in terms of restrictions, there's no, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no maximum amount of water that can be drawn out of from groundwater to, you know, input into production, right? To make more cider. And also, do they even have a groundwater license? That was a question I had, which would regulate the withdrawal of water. So seems to me we're a little premature in moving forward with moving this from a temporary application to a permanent. On those grounds alone.
See, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't know, I'm not sure, but in terms of coastal health approving a water system, whether their review of that includes the groundwater licensing or not. I will just say that water isn't an input in cider production.
It is not.
It is not.
Okay.
So it's different than like a beer or whiskey or something production. But it's more like winemaking, where again, water is not an input. Water is obviously used, I guess, to like clean the equipment between batches, but it isn't a direct input.
But it's true that there's not been a hydrological assessment of
Correct.
the
Yeah.
use.
Mhm. I agree with DG that that seems required and the groundwater assessment.
No, and just to follow through, and I didn't mention it, but obviously the impact of the wastewater on the groundwater is also part of that assessment. So it's how much water is being pulled out and where that water goes and its quality.
Sue Ellen.
Lawrence has had his hand up.
Oh,
Sorry. Lawrence.
sorry, Lawrence.
I was just going to ask, knowing that we get our water from a groundwater supply, but we have to have a water license, and presumably this property has a water license, and presumably that water license specifies the amount of water that can be taken. So surely this information should be available already.
According to some, I think, freedom of information that Heather Miller put together, there's no record of a groundwater license. A surface water license they have.
But surely they can't draw from a well unless they have a water license, because the wells have to be licensed.
They do.
I guess Sue Ellen.
Here's a question for the planner. Do all wells have to be licensed? Because I understood that water used for agriculture and that had been drilled a number of years ago don't require that there's two kinds. You can either register a well or you can get a license. And neither of those is for a farm operation. Are they required?
If you drill a well now, the well driller is supposed to not license it, but register it with the
Yeah.
province.
Sue Ellen?
Because
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at our manager of
Yeah.
environment as well.
Yeah, my understanding was that water licenses are required for uses that are not residential use.
Yeah.
So agricultural use would be included as well, so and commercial uses.
This would be a commercial use, right?
Yeah, so would require a
using
water
cider
license.
Set aside from the orchard would be presumably rural agricultural, but the cidery itself is commercial, so that would be different.
Sue Ellen.
here's another question for the planner, if he knows. Partly because I've been on Islands Trust Council and I'm familiar with this issue of the water sustainability, province's water sustainability plan, and the idea that, or the hope, I guess, that everybody would get a license for their well and their uses so that the province could manage it better. But I understood that very few farming operations were doing that on the islands because there was a fee and they didn't see what it would benefit them. And I'm just wondering, is it a requirement that I thought it was optional still, that even farming operations that had commercial aspects like selling the produce, it's not required by the province. Do you have any information about that? And my second part of the question is, what proportion of Bowen Island food production properties have well licenses? Do you know?
I definitely don't know that. It's not something that we actively track in terms of, do people have the correct groundwater license from the province?
I would maybe just add that in my recollection, and I'm trying to look it up at the same time, but when the Water Sustainability Act came in around 2016, everyone was encouraged to register their wells and surface water intakes, because at that time it would be free. But it was going to be required for all groundwater and surface water intakes eventually. It was just encouraged at that time, and I believe it is required at this time.
That's registry. That's having your well on a map.
Right.
It's different from licensing, which says how much you can, and it gives you water rights. So I was encouraging some farms on the island to take out a license so they didn't lose their water rights to another farming operation or business that came later and got a license. Anyway, they're different, and I don't know, I wonder if you could speak to how the, either one of you could speak to how the Grafton Lake Water Management plan that I understand is underway, that process of thinking about all the water in the area and how it could be best sustainably managed. Could that provide some of the information that members are interested in?
Yeah, I can give a short update. I was planning on giving an update later on in the meeting. So the Grafton Lake Watershed Management Plan, the desktop assessment as part of phase 1 has been completed. I'm waiting on a final version of that deliverable, and so far, like, the indications are that the watershed is in fairly good condition. We have a lot of information, a lot of data on the watershed, but most of the data that we have is really snapshot kind of assessments. And so it's quite hard to take all of that and come up with some really good, like, long-term trends. And so that most of the data collection moving forward will focus on monitoring and long-term monitoring to make sure that we have that long-term picture of how the watershed is doing. But we already have quite a bit of information. So we're taking that and we're looking at, you know, kind of a risk assessment. We're also we've just started a community engagement with some, we're talking to people at Canada Day event, and then we'll be at BowFest and some farmers markets. And then working on, right now we're working on setting up a workshop with hopefully members of this committee and other knowledge holders. In terms of whether or not it can answer some questions for this application, it's maybe hard to say. One thing I will say is that this watershed management plan will not be a full hydrogeological model of the watershed. It's, you know, just a loose estimate of the cost of something like that might be around $400,000. So it's not going to provide us the full picture to get down to a property level and assess each application that comes in like that. What I do think, though, it would be a missed opportunity to not include some kind of assessment around development and, you know, what we think, where the biggest risks lie in terms of potential, you know, additional development or density, and they will make recommendations around development.
I see Phil had his hand up.
Yeah, I just wonder if it'd be reasonable for us to delay or defer this discussion until we have the information about the need for licensing or the requirement for licensing. And some information, we don't have any information really about the quantity of use, the need for the current scale of operation. Presumably that's not gonna change based on the application. But we don't really know, so I'd say we don't have enough information to really speak to the concerns that DG's raised, and I'd say we kind of need that to make a decision,
Okay,
or at least to provide a recommendation.
Sue Ellen.
A question is, has there, well, it's been operating for a few years there and as the cidery and then before that, the original Rileys were using it in almost the same way. They were crushing the apples and making juice. And I wonder, in the past few years, whatever, do we have any indication that the wells of the neighbors are being impacted at all? Because I also had gathered that was kind of a water recharge area from the William Schulba info that came to council.
I'll say to that, it's not something that municipality tracks. Yeah, I will say, just looking on the provincial database, there is a water license on the property for irrigation. That was issued in 1993.
From
So-
the source of that water, that's
The
that surface water.
surface water from Frank Spring, it says it gives 2.5 acre feet per annum. I don't know what that works out to.
It's 2.5 feet
DG.
spread over an acre.
Over an acre, yeah. It's weird.
Just speaking, Carla, just to clarify, the terms of reference for the Grafton Lake watershed study does it include groundwater assessment, or is it more focused on surface water?
I would say it's more focused on surface water, that we have included groundwater in the scope in terms of at least reviewing the Islands Trust information and seeing how that can be incorporated within the risk assessment. But there's not like a full assessment of groundwater.
Yeah, well, I
if you
mean, that's
will.
a big,
Like, it's like-
that's a big deal. I mean, it's really almost as much up top as underneath, right? It's like doubles the amount of work, right, to do the groundwater. Right, thank you.
Sue Ellen.
I wonder if, I don't think this committee has seen the Islands Trust groundwater work and Bob Turner's presentation about that. And maybe that
be
would
useful.
also be useful in terms of water concerns. Because that's something council has seen, and we referred it, I think, to the official community
Yeah.
plan steering committee, but I don't think we've referred it here, so.
Yeah,
Might be
I think that would be useful for a lot of the referrals we get. I brought together that series of maps that showed some preliminary information about groundwater recharge areas and that kind of thing. If we had that more detailed information, that would help us in our deliberations on most referrals. I'm going to, I think one of the things that has been brought up is this whole idea of groundwater at risk of containing pathogens. And I went and found that the province has a document called Guidance Document for Determining Groundwater at Risk of Containing Pathogens. It's a 2017 document from the Ministry of Health, and it has a whole procedure there. And it talks about, it's intended to assist drinking water officers. And I don't know what level of government that is, a drinking water officer. I'm not sure it's municipal or provincial or regional.
Be
Vancouver
provincial.
Coastal Health.
Yeah, so I think a lot of this deliberation is in the hands of Vancouver Coastal Health, not the municipality maybe. But I'll ask Daniel if that's his understanding.
That's my understanding too. So
Yeah.
if you operate a community water system on Bowen, so not even, well, even the municipal ones are overseen by Vancouver Coastal Health.
Yeah.
And so that's why we refer the applications
Yeah.
to Coastal Health. And in this case, yeah, they said the existing water system is approved to serve the cidery house and barn.
But
TJ.
I think, I agree, looking at water quality is definitely not within our purview, but in terms of looking at the cumulative impact of a certain use of a property on the neighboring property is within the purview of the municipality. And I think, in my view, that's what we're
Yeah.
talking about here. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with DG's comment. I think the challenge is that, you know, there are limits on spatial use, but there's no limit on capacity of the cidery. So ultimately, if someone comes in and says, okay, I want to start producing, you know, X times more cider in the future, the water use will increase. It has to match that capacity. And cideries typically, and wineries and other types of operations like that, don't necessarily have to rely on what they can produce on site. They can import.
Yeah. And who knows, they might import concentrate. And
Right,
then they have
so
to add water.
This is speculation, but we don't want to speculate, but we want to make sure that there's provision to kind of regulate that, I guess, that use.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Carla.
Thanks. I just wanted to make a suggestion that rather than wait to make a recommendation to council, that you should make a recommendation to council not supporting the proposal, but rather requesting that certain provisions be made or that studies be required.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I think that's where it was leading up to, and I think you've encapsulated it very nicely.
Thanks.
Shall we start? Before we do that, I'd like to just do a quick touch on our presentation, public presentation, the suggestion that there should be a covenant on on protecting the biodiversity of the orchard, which is, you know, it's agricultural biodiversity, but it's still biodiversity and important. You know, the Rileys spent a lot of time putting together a gene bank of cultivars that are, I think, internationally important to maintain that. So I'm wondering if we should, in our recommendations, suggest a covenant on the protecting the biodiversity of the orchard. So
Agreed.
so let's get started. It's
Yeah, this will be fun.
I think, you know, it might even be bullets of the areas that should be covered.
So in general, we want to say that, given the conservation development, it's not guidelines, but policy that, with this rezoning, this committee recommends that 50% be set aside in a conservation covenant, and that should include the heritage orchard and the biodiversity contained within, and the riparian areas along Murray Creek.
And Daniel, just a question about Murray Creek. I've been on the property and I'm not sure exactly where Murray Creek is. Is it involved with the two little ponds that are there, that the water's running through is,
Yes, so it runs along like the Laura Road side of the property.
okay. Yeah, that,
Right, and then it crosses over into
the next problem.
the next, you know, the house that used to be red and now is. Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, so I just sort of typed that out
Yep.
very roughly.
Yep.
So trying to
Sure.
follow you, so you'll want to change that.
And then we want to itemize the reports and confirmations that we would like to see before supporting or not supporting this
Rezoning.
submission,
Rezoning,
Yeah.
right?
rezoning submission. Do you have a nice list going, I think? What,
I'm just starting on this list, so. I would say that that the committee recommends prior to, formal consideration, you know, like we need this information before we can make a full recommendation on whether or not it should go to, a permanent rezoning. One is we need to know, where that 50%, it should be 50% for it to meet the conservation development policy. We need to know where on the property we need to see it on a map.
Yep.
And have it specified, it's 51%, it's whatever, but to meet that 50%. Including, or maybe a separate bullet point about maintaining the biodiversity of the heritage orchard. Having the riparian area and Murray Creek included in that conservation area. We would require a hydrological report that looks at the impact of the cidery and light industrial use of the property on the neighboring, what is it called? The groundwater shed?
Go for it.
There's a term, right?
Yeah, that's
Aquifer?
a groundwater shed is.
Groundwater
a
shed?
term that you can use, yeah.
Yeah, groundwater shed. And then finally, the other thing, I think, Phil, that you mentioned would be the restriction of a restriction on the
Volume of water?
volume, yeah,
Some
of
kind of,
output, or, you know, so that we're not,
Limit.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in addition to the other
and
restrictions
that's what
that,
the groundwater research, you know, if you have a groundwater study done, they can probably give some guidance as to what the limits are.
Mhm.
And if you
So-
don't have that, it's hard.
we don't have any information.
I think it would be very, very difficult to assess the impact of the cidery on the surrounding wells. I'm on a well, and I know my neighbors are also on the same aquifer. And I've been keeping a well log for almost 10 years.
Mhm.
And there's high variability from season to season. That can just be simply a function of the wet weather. I would never be able to parse out what is responsible for my neighbors. I mean, the cidery is across the lane, or not the cidery, the orchard rehab place. And I mean, I have no idea. That's a commercial. I know they have one of the biggest producing wells that the people who drilled the wells in that area had ever measured. But obviously their use is very heavy, but whether or not that directly impacts me from year to year, I rather suspect it's a function of whether we get rain.
That's
And
why we
that's-
need a study, though,
But
these
that's
people can-
hard to say, is that, I mean, if people's wells are varying, what I'm saying is simply that if they're varying, that can just be a function of drought conditions or more rain, rather than how would you actually tell whether the cidery was involved? I do think, though, that in terms of water usage, I would think the biggest thing in the cidery is irrigation for the orchard. And is the orchard going to expand? Are they therefore going to use more water? Is that under a different purview because it's agricultural use. I don't know, but those, I mean, can you put a limit and say, you know, you can only have so many trees or so much water for the purposes of irrigation. So you can't expand the orchards themselves.
Isn't that
You're all
kind
issues.
of covered in water licenses?
It should be.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, that's where I think if we have this hydrological assessment, it's gonna, and ask it in the scope, say, you know, we're be considering both groundwater and surface water. And what is there? And, you know, how deep are the surrounding wells? Are they on the same aquifer? It's just, there's so much information we just don't know.
Can I just add to that in terms of like, you're right, I mean, probably the irrigation of crops would be the, you know, a key water usage. Any of the properties on Bowen that are zoned rural residential 1, 2, or 3 are zoned to permit agriculture. Right, so any of the properties could say, we want to have an orchard, we want to have crops of some kind, and that wouldn't require any rezoning. And it may require a development permit, or it may not, because we have right to farm provision exemptions in our development permit area. It may require a building permit, it may not if you're not building a building. So in theory, you know, any property on Bowen that's zoned for agriculture could put in farmland, and it would be subject to, yeah, their water requirements and their licensing, but would never come to council and would never come, may not come to the municipality at all, beyond like business licensing.
It's because they want, it's the cidery is why it has to
Yeah.
come.
And so even, you know, I remember in discussions with this about the temporary use permit, it's like the agriculture zoning permits you to grow, to process, and to sell. So if the business was, we're going to grow apples, we're going to crush them, and we're going to sell the juice, would be permitted in any rural residential property. The key distinction in the cidery in particular is the provision to actually that not all the apples have to come from your property, right? So in the cidery definition, it's that 25% have to come from the property and 75% can be imported. And that's essentially the key distinction that's required for this rezoning. So any rural property on Bowen can grow apples and can crush the apples and can sell apple juice. And if you want to ferment it, you need a approval from the liquor, whatever board. But in essence, growing crops and selling crops is permitted in our zoning. And we would then rely essentially on the water licensing provisions from the province, but it may not require any permissions from the municipality.
So does that then obviate that issue about the irrigation side of things is not an issue within our purview? It's just the impact of other uses of the cidery for groundwater. Is that what we're dealing with here? Or, I mean, do we set aside the agricultural water usage that's administered by a provincial body? Is it that?
That's what I would think, like if the
And their
committee's,
license.
like if the committee's recommendation is essentially that, mirroring that recommendation from Coastal Health when there was the guest house involved that said, you find the language. You know, an assessment from a professional hydrogeologist about potential demand on site and the quantity of water, then that seems appropriate. You could be asking for that. And you know, then it's essentially it's up to the, you know, the professional to say, how am I determining demand and that it is sufficient, and you'd get a report, look at it. But so like some, you know, we often get reports like in subdivisions, we require that the report show, you know, that you're not impacting your neighbors, and they'll do a well test, they do a drawdown and they monitor neighboring wells. And from that, they sort of can build a model of how much they do impact, what impact is there on neighboring wells.
So this proposal, I mean, to make it a permanent thing, is not a proposal to increase water use per se. It's just to continue the current usage pattern. Am I right in?
Yes. I mean, I guess, you know, like nowhere in this, like what's limited in the TUP and limited in the zoning is the retail area and the picnic area.
But not the
So,
water.
you know, I don't know in terms of their ongoing operations, if they say, well, if they were operating at peak capacity, they could do, you know, twice the production or have, I don't know. They're limited, I guess, in terms of like how many apples they grow on site, because that's a limitation, because that has to be a percentage of their input.
But it gets into a problem when you talk about the impact on the neighbors, when you're talking about groundwater. For all the reasons I said about it's so highly variable from year to year. Well, usually season to season. In the summer is where you see the impacts, and certainly in my case, I don't know why it would be different elsewhere,
But then it would also mean that, you know, all properties on Bowen that are R1 that are, or R2 or 3 that have some agriculture, no one's stopping them from using as much water as they want. I mean,
I think, my understanding is that is in fact the case, unless they've since changed things. Like my neighbors could suddenly start using water they have all their grandkids over year round, and then start drawing down the aquifer, and I would have no recourse. That's my understanding from previous discussions about these things. But I'm just curious, in this case, if you're looking at, we're not changing the basic operation in any way, apart from the surface use, or but in terms of groundwater usage, it doesn't sound really like there's much that you can do to, I mean, impact on neighbors. Well, if it's always been, they've been doing this for so many years now, and nobody's run out of water. Well, if they have,
But we don't
maybe that's,
know.
well, maybe that's the result of,
Right.
again, a dry summer.
plus
And how do you
there's
tell?
nothing to say in this permit or in this rezoning that they couldn't double or triple their capacity. It's there.
Yeah, that's my concern.
Yeah, so
But-
even though it's going as it is right now,
But theoretically, they
Once
wouldn't be
there's a-
using any more water, right? Because it's a cidery, they get the water out of the apples. I mean,
well,
maybe
if they
maybe for-
increase their orchard, you know, coverage, then
but that would be the purview of,
irrigation.
yeah, that would be, I don't know, is that our purview, I guess is
Yeah.
my question then.
Yeah.
Or is that another government body that administers agricultural?
Well, I think
water
it's our
use?
purview in that it relates to the environment. And exacerbated by climate change.
I think we wouldn't be able to limit agriculture on the land, though. I think that's maybe what you're getting at.
Yeah, that's, it
Couldn't
would
do
be,
that.
yeah.
No,
I'm gonna move on just to another item here. And that is waste treatment. And, you know, a cidery is gonna have liquid waste and it's gonna have solid waste. Solid wastes are the mash from the pressings. And I've got questions here on both of them. What are the wastes from the liquids? I'm in the liquid one, I'm thinking equipment has to be washed, sterilized and that kind of thing. And you know, how are they how's this disposed, and is there monitoring, and who does it? Of how those wastes are disposed of, and the same goes with the solids. You know, if it's just left there to compost, there can be effluent coming out going into the groundwater and that kind of thing. Those are questions that I think fit into our preview of, you know, is the surface and groundwater going to be contaminated by these processes?
well, we could ask that in our, that we would like information on solid and liquid waste results from cidery operations.
How disposed, how it's disposed.
Quantities and disposal methods.
Is that reasonable, Daniel?
Yeah, I just sense Sarah language about the septic in terms of that's from the staff report in terms of require the proponent engage a registered on-site wastewater practitioner or a professional to provide a letter of assurance that confirms that the intended use of the property will not have a negative impact on the on-site wastewater system. That's dealing with the septic
Yeah.
specifically.
And the solid waste, that can be a valuable material if it's turned into some kind of compost, but how is it done and what kind of affluents could come from that?
Okay, let's see, we got quite a lot.
Okay.
Sarah?
Okay.
Okay,
Do you want me to read or do you want you can? do it?
Sarah,
Yes.
would it be possible to make it wider so that we could see more on the screen? I don't know.
How's that?
Oh, it just gets bigger.
It just
That's
gets bigger. Is that okay?
fair.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Let's start. First bullet.
First bullet, the clarification be provided on where the 50% conservation area is located on the property, and that the conservation area includes the orchard, its associated biodiversity, and Murray Creek, consistent with BIM's conservation policy.
so we need the riparian area added in there. And that, I think the other thing is, we need to say they need to meet the 50%.
Yeah.
And then say where it is.
Okay.
A minimum of 50%.
Yeah. Daniel, I thought, did you have?
That was just my same point. It's just wanting the recommendation to
Yeah.
be clear if you're saying it
Yeah.
needs to meet 50%, we want it, and then we want to know where it is.
Yeah.
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 The 50%.
And provide clarification or something.
Mhm.
And probably the 50% conservation policy would probably be covered by a covenant. That's the only option I can think of that makes sense in
Mhm.
this. We can't have
Yeah.
it as a park.
Right.
Um,
Orchard. Can you scroll? a
Mhm.
little bit? Yeah.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Maybe it should say Heritage Orchard.
And
And then do you want to say, and the Murray Creek riparian area?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
missed that.
Yeah.
It's clear it's not just the bed of the creek, yeah.
Well, it's Murray Creek and its associated riparian.
Good point. Happy with that one, Swellen?
And,
Oh,
About the covenant.
yeah, I was
where-
just gonna
give me
say,
some words. Where will I pop that?
well, I just noticed at the end of our point there, it says consistent with BIM's conservation policy, so that could be brought up in to the top, that the program must be and I guess it should be conservation development
Yeah.
policy.
yeah.
Must meet. Oops. BIM's.
And provide, instead of clarification, maybe we say provide a map indicating
Mhm.
where a conservation covenant
Area.
or covenants would be located.
Covenanted area
Areas with S,
or?
could be several, right?
Yeah.
Located on the property, and then you could have a colon or a semicolon and say the covenanted area or areas should include.
Yeah.
And then jump to the heritage or orchard.
I've lost it. Oh, there it is.
And we need to put back in 50% near the top. That the proponent must meet by protecting development policy by protecting 50% or more percent or greater. Greater
quite right.
of the property.
And provide map indicating where it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
say,
Mhm.
after, right where your cursor is, or greater of the property, and then in brackets, we could say conservation, covenants are appropriate,
Recommended.
are recommended. And then where, so you could take out the second where covenanted areas or, yeah.
Maybe we should bullet this. The proponent must meet BIM's conservation development policy by bullet 1, protecting 50% or greater of the property. I would say then the next. Should we highlight the and then I would say that, the protected area should, have a conservation covenant, sort of just make it super clear, right? We want 50%, we want conservation covenants on those 50%. We want a map, but you see where I'm going? So that maybe,
So, instead of the, sorry, up at the top, Sarah. Maybe, for the inner bullet, protecting 50% or greater of the property. New bullet, conservation
Yeah.
covenants are recommended.
yeah, that's where I was going.
And,
Yeah.
a map, should be provided.
Uh,
Yeah,
With.
I mean, it's not all under that heading of mincemeat.
When
bins,
we
but
get down to
yeah.
the bottom there, Sarah, we just can't see because the,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
okay,
keep,
in case
Yeah.
you're wondering why we're stumbling around.
A
or why
map
I
should-
am.
Yes, indicating where.
I can make it a bit smaller, so
Yeah.
it's sort of a
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
tricky balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. We, yeah, the kind. Yeah, and maybe those last 2 points should be switched, so conservation covenants are recommended, the covenant, then the next point should be the covenant areas should, like what you have there.
Yeah.
And then finally, a map should be provided to council and committees, or to this committee, or to staff and committees.
Be provided to committees or to council or.
To be provided.
I think that's
Yes, and-
understood, isn't it?
Yeah,
That-
yeah, sure.
The other thing, going just back up, once you're done there, I think protecting 50% and greater of the property.
For
And then-
conservation?
Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe for
Yeah.
conservation, and then the conservation covenants are recommended on these protected areas or something just super clear, right? I don't know, is that the right protected areas or?
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's looking pretty
Okay.
good.
Yeah,
Okay, and then the last one,
Thank you, Sarah.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
And then there's a map. The only part we didn't was that, did you want to make a point about restricting the volume?
Sue Ellen,
I would love it if Daniel could read that, what Vancouver Coastal Health said. I didn't catch it, but was that a hydrogeological assessment be required, something?
That's this, oh.
Oh.
Sorry, it was just there.
That was it.
Oh, okay,
This
that's
one.
that one. You
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that's all been incorporated. Are you? Oh,
That's
no, that
good.
needs to,
Yeah.
that's the next point, sorry.
Yep.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
that's,
That's the one about the septic.
that's the septic.
Mhm.
And what about the
Oh.
hydrological
There's another
assessment?
bullet.
I think, yeah, we need another bullet on that one.
I missed, did I get rid of it? Oh, I did, there it is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So I think it's be completed to confirm No negative impacts on the,
Ground watershed. I don't, now I'm wondering though, like,
sure, here with
Might be
it.
2 words.
I think
I
you can
think
get rid of
it's-
sufficient water quantity. That's not in our purview.
Well,
I thought that the point about, would they expand the orchard? Would they use concentrates? The point about cumulative impacts under climate change, maybe those were some of the things that stood out to me that do get around to, long-term impacts.
Could that be in that bullet point there? And to include, like, this assessment could include what you just said?
so,
It's a question of cumulative impact
Yeah.
to that comes from the collective use of the site, right?
Yeah.
so that an assessment from a professional hydrogeologist
Oh, for
be
hydrogeologist,
completed
yeah.
to, I think we should say to investigate, not confirm no negative impacts, to investigate.
Impacts.
Potential
im-
potential
pot-
impact.
Potential
yeah.
impacts.
Yeah.
On the ground watershed.
yeah, there you are.
Potential
Potential.
impacts.
Including
Cumulative effects.
Climate
climate
change,
change, yeah,
um,
cumulative impacts.
potential, or.
Climate
or,
change.
Making
Increased,
cider with concentrates.
yeah, increased water use.
I would just suggest that it's a pretty tall order to try and assess the effects of climate change on that. Because we're requiring it, I mean, we know that it's likely, but to be able to quantify that, it just makes me wonder if that's meaningful in the context of this consideration.
I,
You know what I mean?
yeah, I think we need to include, the precautionary principle that we've got to
think if-
accept that
If you're a
it's gonna happen.
PGO, if you're a PGO hydrogeologist, I'm a PGO geomorphologist, but it's a requirement. It's an EGBC requirement that you consider climate change in any project that you're working on. So
Okay.
it's a given. They're going to
Yeah.
have to do that.
Okay,
And yeah, it's a tall order, no doubt, but
It's
it's something
speculative.
that an expert hydrogeologist
Yeah.
can handle.
yeah. And there are general things like hotter summers, hotter, drier summers are coming and are already here. And that's something you've got to accept.
Just seems to me that the climate change is gonna affect everybody's well, not just this one.
Yeah,
So it's kind of a,
But if the
That-
stressor.
But that goes
the
into the
stressor-
decision around whether you will permit a commercial use in this
Yeah.
context,
That's the difference,
right?
right? It's not a residential, they're wanting a light, really, it's a light industrial application. So,
I think that's a reasonably well
Yeah.
worded.
yeah.
increase, et cetera.
Dot.
Trees. I think that, does anyone think we're missing anything?
Are we going to talk about the impacts on water quality and from the
Waste.
the wastes?
Impact on the critters that live around, for example. We can't talk about the health.
Yeah.
Because that's not our purview,
Yeah.
but we certainly can talk about the impact and potential impact.
Well, where is their
On-
waste? Clarification on, so I guess we would like clarification on where their liquid and solid waste materials, waste
Will be
products
will be disposed
are
of
disposed of.
and with be assessed in terms of impact on
Sensitive wetland species downstream
Well,
or
I
something?
think what maybe sorry, I
Yeah.
jumped over you there.
Okay.
That I think we need to hear what they say, like how they're dealing with it before we can say, oh, well, we need to assess how that is impacting things. Because we, you know, maybe
Yeah.
they take it off island and
Right.
it's not, we don't need to require more reports. So I think we can still ask for those things after we get clarifications.
So we'll set.
The clarification will be provided on where the solid waste will be disposed of and
And how?
And liquid waste.
and how.
did you
Solid and
say-
liquid waste.
I thought I heard that.
Presumably the liquid waste is just going, you know, with all their.
It would be nice to have a
Through the
septic
septic
system
system.
dealing with it rather than it just being
Yes, yes, so if they
dumped
clarify that
onto
it
the
is
soil
going through
beside
the septic system.
the
And-
cidery.
And it's, the septic system is.
not-
Should it be
And-
where or should it be how? The solid.
On how
Oh, I
and
think, yeah.
where, the solid and liquid waste are disposed of.
Oh, I've
So
already
we,
put how.
so we want that, but I think the next step is if they say, oh, it's all being trucked off island, then that's sort of the end of the story, but likely it's
Yeah.
not. So then we also would need the next step as to
Right, so we could
any potential
fold it in
impact.
there.
But as I think Claudia already said, you know, we need to know this first and then we'll come back with with more questions
I
or
mean,
I think you could
I see
You
DG's
could,
point.
you could cut to the chase on that by saying clarification be provided on any solid or liquid waste that is disposed of on the property. And then link that to the potential for impacts.
Yeah.
So, and I would put
This
instead of
is our
provi-
opportunity,
on
right?
any, I would say provided on any solid or liquid waste that may be disposed of on the property.
So on any.
Mhm.
any-
To provide it on any solid. Any solid and listed waste. That are,
disposed of
May be
on-
disposed of, because we don't know if they
That
do
may,
dispose
yeah.
of it there, they may carry it all offsite.
Or it
Or,
may be in the future.
or in the future disposed of on the. that may be disposed
And then
of
we
on
can
the
link it to
property.
your concerns about impacts.
And
Well, we
any
could say
impact they may
if-
have.
Yeah.
We're just saying may.
And any known impacts of
Such disposal.
such disposal.
Mhm.
I wish I could type that fast.
it's hard under pressure.
Yeah, and we're all watching.
You're trying to listen, oh my gosh, yeah. It's very hard.
Yeah.
Okay, and then our last point says a restriction on the volume of cidery output. I think that's
Yeah.
gotta be worded differently
Yeah.
or, that council consider a restriction on the, there's another way to say it, on the, increase in industrial use above current levels or consider restriction.
I think it's called light
Um,
industrial, just. you have it.
Or significantly above current levels. And then maybe industrial uses, right?
Yeah, I
So
think it's
no
light
more
industrial, light industrial. That's what it's
Mhm,
for.
mhm.
the term.
But it's still industrial, whether it's light
Yeah,
or not.
well, yeah, just sounds. I think technically they call it light industrial.
It's a kind of zone
Yeah.
So, yeah.
or a kind of,
Consider a
use, yeah.
restriction.
On any increase of light industrial use that,
Well, I'm not sure we need, like, do we really want to say they're not allowed to make one more bottle of cider
right,
than they're
right,
currently doing? They might.
Oh, I
need
see.
to,
I see
you
now.
know, Make it economic, you know,
Yeah.
economically viable.
But that's,
now that it's, I
and
scrolled
it's
up, I
all
can.
contingent on the fact that that would create some sort of deleterious effect. So you need to put something like that in at the end. In the event that the above criterion create deleterious effects.
I'm not sure what you mean. So can you?
Well,
maybe I
the
didn't
whole
quite hear it.
idea here is that those things are concerns about having a deleterious effect. But the idea of increasing the current levels, would it be consequential if they increased the levels if they didn't have a deleterious effect?
Mhm.
Because we've asked,
Mhm.
I agree, you asked for clarification in the top bullet that we can see. And then the second one would be that council can consider a restriction or a limit on the increase of use above,
How about,
to avoid deleterious effects.
maybe even start the bullet with, if deleterious effect.
Don't ask me about
Result
spelling.
from-
Yeah, that's good because it's conditional.
Yeah.
If I tell you how to spell something, you know that it's wrong.
Deleterious.
So we just hit a little hiccup here, so hang on, I think they've actually got a better placement for that, so.
So we start the bullet by saying, if deleterious effects are found, or
Can be anticipated.
if deleterious effects, anticipated from the, increase in light, significant. Well, I'm not nailing it, so, light industrial use, that council consider a restriction or limit on, on the, can you scroll down a bit?
I've sort of
on
split it
the,
into two now, because you sort of,
Yeah. Are, if deleterious effects are anticipated with a significant increase in, how about in cidery output?
Cidery capacity,
Cidery. Deleterious
Production.
with a significant
production.
Cidery
increase in
production.
cidery production,
Well done, Karen.
that council consider a restriction or a limit on.
Output.
Cidery output?
Yeah, and on cidery output. Consider restriction. on-
We can wordsmith that a little bit
Yeah,
later.
yeah.
If you've got the idea there, I think
I
that's
think
good.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
So
And so that bottom part. can-
it, we don't need that.
don't need that.
All gone.
Okay. So from the top,
You're.
quite a long, it's a hefty
Oh,
one.
that's 12 pages. No.
I don't need to read it. Do you want me to read it all out or?
Let's
I-
maybe scroll slowly.
Yeah.
Scroll slowly
Yeah.
for us.
Maybe not quite that quick.
Sorry.
Okay, now we can move up. I mean, we say a map should be provided indicating where covenant areas would be located, but I mean, we need that now, like, we don't just mean like later. A map should be provided, to council and committees or to, in order
So-
to,
This would come back to us later, Daniel, for comment or not?
I mean, assuming council refers it again, then it would.
Okay.
So,
So it might not.
I mean,
Can you s-
typically we'd recommend it come back, but obviously ultimately it's up to council.
Can you scroll
Hmm.
back up to the top again?
or
Thank you.
What, just take
Right.
out should. a map be provided.
Yeah, but I'm just concerned that at the very,
Further?
they just all the way up, if you wouldn't mind, okay. Recommended. Okay, so then recommended the following before formal consideration.
By the committee?
So what, yeah, what does that mean?
It
Like-
means we're not gonna say yay or nay on
Yeah.
the subdivision or the
The-
rezoning until we have this information.
Is that what it means?
Yeah,
And.
Okay. Good, that's good.
And a little lower down, the map thing again, we can say, a map be provided with the revised submission, rezoning submission. Is that
So,
okay?
sorry,
wording? Like,
Don't we want all of that though, with all of our requests before we?
yes. Yeah, okay. I'm being too
So-
picky. Okay.
So maybe,
it's, I think
Yeah,
it's
that's fine.
understood.
That's fine.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, and then there's the last few.
At the very end of where it says, climate change, increased water use. It seems to sort of hang there. What does?
Oh, it does a bit, doesn't it?
What does the increased water use mean?
That might have been just me starting to type something when someone was talking and then not going back to it.
I think we can take it out.
Yeah,
right, we
and-
don't know that it's. gonna
And
be-
climate change is a little bit, it just needs to be tight, including cumulative impacts
And-
that
and the effects of-
also, yeah,
And
account for
consideration.
yeah.
consideration.
cumulative and consideration of climate
Change. No, consideration of
Use
climate change,
consideration.
Sarah?
period.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or, I don't know, are they all
I haven't decided.
bulleted?
They'll
You'll
do
fix that,
that,
you'll
yeah.
fix that.
I'll figure that out later. That's fine.
Okay. And then,
Okay, the next one is this one. It's kind of split on 2 pages, so let me know when you want me to.
Phil, you're the engineer. Is that one good? The proponent engaged and registered on-site water practitioner, blah, blah.
Or suitably qualified professional.
Okay,
or,
I just want
Yeah,
me
in
as a
front of
professional.
professional,
I
or
could
it's-
be
Or
Yeah.
suitably,
suitably qualified, yeah.
Can lead professional, but yeah. Suitably.
Claudia and I could qualify for that, but we wouldn't.
Do we want to put in there somewhere that we're talking about septic? Like
So it says,
e.g.
oh, sorry,
I think it
septic
does say that.
it does it says at the end, it was just on the other page. There it is here.
Waste,
It says
on-site
wastewater above
s-
in the earlier in it.
Oh,
too.
does it as well?
Yeah.
Oh, it does, yeah, on site.
Okay.
That the proponent engages a registered on-site wastewater practitioner or suitable qualified professional to provide a letter of assurance that confirms that the intended use of the property will not have a negative impact on the on-site wastewater system.
I would change suitable to suitably, just change the E to a Y.
Suitably, yeah.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
then next is the last 2.
This one's still a bit vague in terms of what sort of clarification we need.
Mm.
On the quantity and composition of solid and liquid waste. Is that kind of what we're getting
Yeah.
at? We want to know how much they
Provided,
dispose of
um,
and what is it made of. Could be chemicals associated with washing tanks.
Yeah.
Could be, organic waste associated with the product. And so I would just add clarification be provided on the quantity and composition of any solid and liquid waste.
well done. Yeah, that tightens it up
Mhm.
perfect.
And on the quantity.
Nice.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. We happy with all of that?
Now that's the last point. If deleterious effects are anticipated, where are we finding out about those? Like, is that from the report by the hydro geologist?
I think,
All the above.
yeah, and especially the one about the quantity and composition of the solid waste.
Okay. Yeah.
Liquid and solid waste. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, okay.
Good for me.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
In favor? Lawrence, are you here?
He's
Yeah,
there.
it's got
Yeah,
it.
There he
okay,
is.
good.
There's the
Yeah,
hand up.
thank you. Okay.
Whew.
All right.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks,
we've got
Daniel.
more to go.
Bye.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks.
Business arising from the minutes, sustainable community grants. Carla.
Thank you, Will. So last time we met in May, we didn't have quorum at the end of the meeting. A couple people, I think, had to leave, but Kate did go ahead and speak to the sustainable community grants applications that we received and the process that we followed to choose the recipients of those potential recipients of those grants. So we need a recommendation from this committee so that we can send that to council, and council would make the final decision that we can hand out those grants. So I don't know, Sue Ellen, if you wanted to speak to the recipients at all. But basically, the recommendation wasn't included in this agenda, but the recommendation was that the Parks, Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee recommend that council award the 2026 Sustainable Community Grant funds to the following groups: Tourism Bowen Island, $800 for the Leave No Trace project; the Bowen Island Conservancy, $2,000 for the Backyard Biodiversity Handbook project; and the Bowen Island Food Resilience Society, $1,200 for the Reorganizing Beds and for Irrigation project.
I have one question. And I'm a member of the Bowen Island Conservancy. Do I need to recuse myself from, I'm not active in that project. So,
So I think
Lots of
we,
us are members.
yeah,
You're not on the board.
no. Okay,
I think we decided last time that lots of members are on this committee, and that if we weren't directly involved with the project, that it was all right, and that there was always going to be some overlap with this grant process and this committee and other groups.
And the
Thank you for the
subcommittee
clar-
didn't have.
No,
Yeah, I'm on
us.
the
Yeah.
Conservancy Board, so, but I wasn't on the subcommittee, so.
yeah. All right, so I'll make that motion then, that you just read out.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Done, unanimous. Okay. Updates? Counselor Trustee Sue Ellen Fast?
Well, I have a whole bunch, but I'm just gonna flip through them here. That was the Riley Orchard Islands Trust stuff. Islands Trust Council announced recipients of the 2026 Community Stewardship Awards. So that includes the Bowen Island Conservancy, and that was council nominated the Bowen Island Conservancy for that work for protecting Cape Rod, or an area of Cape Roger Curtis. And the second one was Dr. Wendy Palin and Tom Sisk, Bowen Island, for the biodiversity plan. And I have my hard copy. I think Carla might have one, but I've got the rest to give to council too. So if anybody wants to look at it, it's here.
And I think there's a digital version available.
Oh, yeah, online.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's in the draft OCP, and the public input portion, that phase of public input, I think, is closed, although you can always write in anyway. So committee's working ahead. And then, also at Islands Trust, just want to let you know they're like the umbrella over our OCP, in a way. So that's, they've passed an Indigenous Relations Action Plan, just in terms of things that may be coming, the way of this committee. First Nations referral process for rezonings and things like that. At the Islands Trust, we're doing some of that now with the OCP and that kind of thing on Bowen. And Council, June the 8th, we received a update on the Japanese Canadian Memorial Project. Carla knows all about that. You can ask her, but if you look at the June 8th council agenda, you'll see the details there. And Ron Cato gave a presentation at the beginning of that. So it's changed a little bit, a little loop now. It's a little smaller in scale. That's by Sandy Beach. And then council had a committee, the whole about the community forest model, thinking about Crown land and how to steward the Crown lands. And so that was interesting. And that was on June 15th. You want to look at the council agenda for that. And I'm just trying to give you an overview of some of the things that council is going on that you might be interested in or might be coming your way. And this is council, last council meeting, council looked at the 1620 Joan Audrey Lane referral that this committee looked at. So they asked staff to start drafting a bylaw. Thank you for your input. And the same with 1639 and 1658 Mount Gardner Lane, where we went up the steep hill towards the barn. And that also, I think, was forwarded to staff for more work on that. Yes, direct staff to draft an amendment bylaw to amend the zoning for that. And then, so thank you for that. And then the last one was just oh, there's a naming policy. So thinking about future parks and trails and things like that, council now has an honorary naming policy, donor funded naming policy, and a recognition policy. So that's all in the June 22 agenda. You can read about that. I don't know if it's all, the naming policy might still need some tweaks. I think it's on Monday's agenda. And one more thing was just one of the, here it is. Regional parks, the mayor sits on that committee, and he wanted to let you know that their meeting held June the 10th, and you can catch up with me about any of these dates later if you want. But Regional Parks has passed some plans. One of them is about, they've got a sort of climate and biodiversity strategy or projects. Anyway, carbon storage at Burns Bog is one of their pilot studies. Natural asset management in regional parks is another one of the projects, which might be worth looking at if anybody's interested, just flagging it, and reducing emissions, but that's more about parking availability being, I don't think that has much to do with ours, but that's regional parks. That's my report.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. Okay, Carla. Environment and Parks Planning Manager.
Thank you, Will, and thank you to Councillor Fast for providing an update on a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't include on my list, but maybe I maybe should have. So
No.
that's great. I think we've covered it all, the two of us. I just wanted to share my screen for a second here, if I can find this now. So on my list, I have the new citywide portal. See if this will switch fairly easily. Let's go.
It's the Grafton Lake.
Yeah, no, that's my, you know, the little strip from Zoom is like blocking. I can't do anything.
If you choose this, like the.
It's okay. I think I got it. So this is just from the launch page for the citywide portal, showing you where you can find it. This is a new
Software.
thanks, that, that you can use to report any, issues within the municipality. So, you know, if you see, a trail is washed out or there's, issues with, you know, of something broken in one of our vault toilets, do let us know. And you can input your email address and sign up for the citywide portal. And if you give your contact information, we'll keep you updated as to like the status of that service request. So it's just really great for us. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a ticket. So it allows our staff to be able to keep track of any outstanding requests and issues. When we can collect data on those. So if something is reported several times, like we'll be able to see those long-term trends. Yeah, good for us. And we see where, we track our spending a little bit better too, like see what's costing us more money. So it provides a lot of valuable data, a lot of organizational, help for the, for our staff, and, we're really excited about it.
Yeah.
So please get in there if you.
Other than
wanna
calling
take a
it
report.
citywide sort of raises my hackles a little bit. We're not a
Just the
city,
name of the
right? I know
proprietor,
it's
it's like
the name of,
Microsoft.
right,
Yes.
it's the
Yeah.
name of the, I realize that, yeah.
So one thing that is kind of good about that is that it's been used by very large cities.
And it's,
And
yeah.
it's a good, there's really like
Good
two
system.
main software companies you can choose for this kind of thing. And then they're very good, apparently, so even the big cities use them.
Even the big cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Grafton Lake Watershed Management Plan, we already talked about a little bit, but I just thought I'd show you the project page. So a lot of the engagement for the watershed management plan is really just providing some education, to the public and talking a little bit with them about values. So, you know, some of the knowledge holder workshops will be a little more involved, and that, you know, will involve kind of the scientific aspect of the watershed. But in terms of the greater public, we want to talk about values, and we want to make sure that people understand what the watershed is and how large it is compared to the size of the lake. We've already noticed a trend of people who are talking to us about the watershed and not saying that they have nothing to do with it when they actually live in it. Or that, you know, it's interesting that most of Cove Bay, water users don't actually live within the watershed too, right? So that water's been provided all the way out to Eagle Cliff. So I think just providing the information that people know that they have a stake in this has been really good so far.
I saw you at the event.
At the Canada Day event.
The Canada Day.
Yes, yeah, so that was great. That was a great first event. Also at the event, I will talk about, we had these signs up for the new Squamish Squamish language beach names. And I know this was all like 2 years ago, we had approval from council to go ahead with these renamings. And we finally just got confirmation from the BC Geographic Names Office that these have been officially approved by the province. So it's Hala'an. We had little buttons to learn the pronunciation, so we'll put these signs up soon. Hala'an is the new name for the Crayola / Blue Water Beach. And it means marked or colored on the cheek or side. And then the other one is Smemont Ayak, and it's for Cape Roger Curtis / Pebble Beach, and it means a place of pebbles. Just in case you all forgot. So we're excited to install those. And then what else did we have? The Living with Wildlife event was successful. There were not as many in attendance as we thought there might be. But we did just share a thank you on some of our social media and just shared some of the key takeaways from the session. So we had Metro Vancouver, BC Conservation Officer Service, Wildlife Safety Officer, and RCMP at the event, as well as Meg Toom, who's Serratus wildlife service, and she gave a really great presentation on living with wildlife. You know, and just stressing that we need to start managing our attractants better, that that we should expect to see more wildlife on the island, including large predators, and then you know, and then the messaging from her and from BC Conservation Officer Services that they're not going to come here and remove every predator that ends up on the island. And as long as we keep providing food sources for them by like feeding deer, either on purpose or not on purpose, or, you know, leaving our garbage out and feeding bears, like these animals are gonna keep coming. And that the food chains we create are encouraging that, and that Conservation Officer Services only going to respond in cases where public safety is at risk, and that relocation is really just not an option.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. What else? And you can, yeah.
Just had a question relating to that.
Mhm.
This might be a Bowen rumor, but heard that someone was hired to shoot the cougar. Is that something the municipality is looking at removing the cougar other than conservation? Okay.
Yeah.
Rumors are rife.
Like,
On the,
if
I think
it's-
everybody was busy on Facebook. They didn't come to the event.
They didn't come to the event, which was too bad, because it was a long process to get all these people together in one room for the benefit of the community to be able to ask all of these questions that they have, instead of spreading the rumors.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We have it recorded. You are welcome to view the recording online, or just, you know, listen to
Yeah.
these summary key points. I will say that we have spoken with conservation recently, and that we're gonna put out a news release tomorrow. They've,
Watch this space.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, the municipality has not hired anyone to come and shoot the cougar, because we don't have that jurisdiction, and we're not allowed to do that. Yes.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is just the Tunstall Bay beach and boat launch rehabilitation. And I can't remember if I talked about this at the last meeting, but we went to council with a report late May. I don't know if I still have that open. Oh, I thought I did. And that we were successful in getting a grant for the design work. And you know, it's a feasibility study grant, but can also be used for design work, and it will be used for it's the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Adaptation and Action Grant Program. And it will be used to design the beach rehabilitation project. So likely you know, a combined approach with some engineering, buried engineering, and like hard engineering with beach nourishment on top. And then we're also incorporating the boat launch in that project, because the funding is associated with a subsequent grant for implementation that would be $1 million. They're looking for projects that have that approximate capital cost. So we thought it was a good opportunity to be able to do this beach nourishment project that has kind of been on the back burner for a long time, and then also provide a nice recreational facility that people have been asking for many years, that yeah, goes in and out of popularity. But anyways, so council said, yes, we can go ahead and do that project. So we're just waiting on the contract from FCM, and hopefully we'll be able to sign that.
Federation of Canadian municipalities.
Yes. Hopefully we'll be able to sign that soon and get started.
Gigi.
Well, first, congratulations on getting that grant. That's fantastic. And just curious, you know, is it going to be a Green Shores project?
That is the plan, yes. We've,
Great.
yeah, we've been talking to,
Sarah?
Sarah, thank you. And we're not exactly sure how that will look, but we plan to have them consulting on the project.
Yeah, just one thing that I've, just based on my past experience, when you're selecting a
Contract.
contractor, put that in there. If that's the intention, they need to know upfront.
Yeah.
And I know the city of Surrey found that very helpful too, when they were looking at that, to be able to say upfront, this is the kind of project we're looking at it, because it can avoid wasting a lot of time and energy looking at other approaches, like,
Yeah.
be upfront. We want these principles incorporated. Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I think that's it.
Well, thank you, Carla. And I think we're pretty well done, because I don't think we're going to have any questions from citizens today. And so I guess next meeting will be will come when it comes. And
That just, state, 7.2 is that bit about the Regional Parks Committee meeting. I forgot, we did refer it to you. So if you're curious about the Burns Bog
Yep.
and the managing natural assets in regional parks, it's in there.
Okay, thank you. And so I guess we have a motion to adjourn. Bill? Claudia says second, and all in favor? All right.
Bye, Lawrence.
Yeah, thanks, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Happy summer, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And great meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Well, I was just going to say, I enjoyed your article about the butterflies in the undercurrent. We've had a ton of those butterflies this year.
Yeah, it's a great year for them, isn't it? It's
Yeah, it's
yeah.
been very impressive. Yeah, they're so huge.
yeah, nicest butterflies on Bowen.
Good, good. Well, thanks again for doing that.
You betcha. Thanks.
That wasp,
Wasp
they're
here.
showing up early.
Yeah.